Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the meeting of the City of Bloomington Council. If everyone could stand, if able, for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll do a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to roll call. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Kearns. Here. Councilmember Montney. Here. Councilmember Dannenberger.
Here.
Councilmember Becker.
Here.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Here.
Councilmember Ward. Here. Councilmember Lee.
Here.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Here.
Mayor Millawampe.
Here. Sorry if I get my notes here. Sorry, trying to manage technology here for a second. Okay, so very good. We are going to talk about the Ward 2 appointment. And this is also consideration action to approve the appointment of Michael Mosley to serve as the council member for Ward 2 per my request. And it's my pleasure to introduce Michael today, who's also Dr. Michael Mosley, I should say. And he is my nominee for the Ward 2 council member seat. When council member Bolin stepped down, of course, you know, I thought, you know, she was living a pretty big void, and she's been a wonderful member of the council. And of course, when someone steps down, you start to think about, you know, trying to find someone who could fill those shoes. But as I began to interview candidates for her replacement, I became more and more convinced that there were a number of candidates who had the potential to fill those shoes. And council members also had an opportunity to review the applicant's material and even visit with some of them. To tell you a little bit about the process that I followed, I asked council members to share with me individually who their top 3 candidates would be. And after reviewing their feedback, it became clear to me that Dr. Mosley consistently ranked in the top 3, and as a result emerged as the consensus candidate. Wanted to share some of the positives that I heard about him, not only from council members, but also others in the community who have gotten to know him really well. He was described as a man of character and integrity, whose passion for community service clearly came across. He is admired for the work he has done at Bloomington High School to not only grow young people, but also grow a fantastic basketball program, so much so that, you know, after he stepped away, he decided to come back. He was welcomed back by Bloomington High School. One thing that I also noted, while he comes across as a very thoughtful individual, he can also be firm. That is my impression of him, and that's something that I think is necessary and certainly an important asset when coaching young people. And I think I certainly look forward to working with him. Dr. Mosley has also kept an eye on city and ward issues, but he's also humble enough, when I spoke with him, to want to learn as much as possible so he can provide the best service for his constituents. So I certainly want to thank all the other applicants for their willingness to serve, and I will be reaching out over the coming days to see if we can use their passion and energy to serve the city in other ways. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to any council member who would like to make any comments prior to the vote. Councilmember Motley?
I'd like to motion that we approve your request.
Second.
to-
Okay, so motion by Councilmember Montney and then second by Councilmember Hendricks. Is there any other comment? Okay, well, I think we're ready to vote then. Let's go ahead and do that. Vote electronically. Okay, well, congratulations, unanimous vote. Awesome. All right, this is when the fun begins for you.
Please raise your right hand. You got it. Thank you. Just repeat after me. I, Michael Mosley,
I, Michael Mosley,
having been elected and appointed to the office of council,
having been elected to the office of council,
member Ward 2
member Ward 2
in the city of Bloomington,
in the city of
in the county of McLean, do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and faithfully discharge the duties of
and faithfully discharge the duties of
the office of council member Ward 2
the office of council
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. It feels like you're saying goodbye to your family. You won't see them again. Because you'll be so busy. Yes. And you work for State Farm, so it's important for you to be a good neighbor and shake hands with everybody. Well, thank you. I want to say again, thank you, council, for participating in the process and really providing clarity for me as I look to make this decision. So this is fantastic, and we're very happy to have you, Michael. If we can call you Michael, I mean, Michael, Doctor Michael. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, Phil, you were motioning for me? No, we're good. Okay, awesome. Okay, I think with that said, the meeting is over. No, we're going to move on to recognition and appointments, and we do have a proclamation for Health and for Humanity Yogathon as requested by the administration department. Um, I think we have a couple of people who are here to receive the proclamation. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation, and then we will yes, and after I read the proclamation, I'll give you a chance to say a few words, and then we can take a picture here. Okay, awesome. This proclamation is in recognition of the Health for Humanity Yogathon organized by Hindu Swayam Sevak.
Yes.
Okay, Sang USA for the 18th of January to the 2nd of February 2025. Whereas yoga is an ancient Hindu practice developed thousands of years ago in the Indian subcontinent for maintaining spiritual, mental, and physical well-being. And whereas Surya Namaskar, sun salutation, is a traditional yogic practice combining a sequence of postures with breathing exercises that provides the key health benefits of yoga in a very succinct package. And whereas Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh, or HSS, is a nonprofit charitable organization with over 236 branches in 171 cities and in 32 states, including 8 branches in the state of Illinois, through which it conducts a Hindu values education program for the Hindu families and community service activities such as food drives, providing hot meals to shelters, and other sewa, okay, for service activities in several cities across USA. And whereas HSS is conducting the 20th consecutive annual awareness program, Health for Humanity, which is a nationwide effort to promote friendship, mutual understanding, and good health among multicultural and diverse members of the community. And whereas yoga enthusiasts, yoga studios, local schools, and other community organizations are participating in the HSS Health and for Humanity Yogathon. And whereas the Health for Humanity program will be conducted January 18th to February 2nd, 2025, and will be free and open to all people for learning a unique set of yoga postures called Surya Namaskar. Yoga enthusiasts and local organizations are participating in this event. Now, therefore, I, Mboka Malambwe, Mayor of the City of Bloomington, on behalf of the Bloomington City Council, do hereby proclaim 18th of January to 2nd of February 2025 as Health for Humanity Yoga Awareness Period in Bloomington and urge residents to join Health for Humanity Yogathon. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Could you come closer to the microphone? Thank you.
So, namaste, respected Mayor,
Namaste.
Honorable Council Member, City staff, citizens of Bloomington. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. I am Saujanya, representing here on behalf of HSS. I'm extremely humbled and honored to address this gathering of Surya Namaskaram Yajna, organized by HSS, also known as Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangha. So HSS celebrating 20th annual year of Surya Namaskaram Yajna across USA. Yes, it's a mass participation. So when and why we are celebrating this Surya Namaskaram Yajna? On the occasion of Heritage Month, we are celebrating this event, honoring the God, Lord Sun, seeking for the physical, mental, as well as spiritual well-being. So on this auspicious occasion, our Bloomington Patanjali Shaka will be conducting Surya Namaskaram Yajna on Jan 18th to February 4th, 2025. So what's our job? What we will do? So before that, let me explain what is Surya Namaskar. The Surya means sun, Namaskar means salutation. So as I said, we're honoring the God, Lord Sun. Practicing the Surya Namaskar is a way of expressing our gratitude towards the Lord Sun. Yes, it's an ancient traditional practice, but which teaches us discipline, gratitude, and bringing balance between our body and mind. That is means like uniting your body and mind together. So actually what balancing refers in yoga? It's a keyword which plays major role in each and every individual soul. So being a woman, this balancing how will be helpful on women's health. So I would like to place this point being a woman. So especially on the pregnancy period of time, so we'll have that imbalanced state of mind due to our hormonal imbalance. So that's why we name it as prenatal depression, postnatal depression, and so on. So having this balanced state of mind will help you to cross our pregnancy journey in a peaceful way. So being a mother, I had this realization point in my pregnancy journey. So when we practice the Surya Namaskar, we will gain lots of benefit. But some of the key points I would like to keep up, like it improves your strengthening, your flexibility, stamina, strengthens your muscles, joints, and so on. It's not only good for your external body, also it's good for your internal organs. It directly yoga or Surya Namaskar, it directly works with your internal organs. It works with your digestive system. It works with your cardiovascular heart muscle. And so on. Also, we improve, also we incorporate our breath rate when we do Surya Namaskar. We will do inhale, we will do exhale, because we need to keep our, we need to improve our mindfulness and focus. Also to keep our body actions in a controlled manner, because we will do the Surya Namaskar in very sequential flow. Just to have the controlled manner, we incorporate this breath rate. So yes, it's a Surya Namaskar, it's a package, and it's almost considered as a complete body workout. And many of the people have asked me, does really yoga helpful for the weight loss? I will say yes. And top of that, Surya Namaskar is the best practice. So that's why Surya Namaskar and Megnia, we are celebrating the winter time on the occasion of Heritage Month to keep us physically, mentally fit. Almost, I hope we all we do single set of Surya Namaskar. It helps you to burn 14 calories. So I hope we every day we'll do more than a single set. 10 to 15 rounds of Surya Namaskar. So I hope our team has lost 3 to 4 calories. I hope. Yes. Yes. So just to keep physically and mentally fit in the winter season. So now coming to the points why we all together here. So what's our job? Today we all gathered here not only to celebrate our cultural heritage, but also we recognize the impact of this practice on our physical and mental health. So HSS strongly believes that yoga for health, health for humanity. With that humanity, our main goal is to promote physical and mental wellness, bringing self-awareness towards the people, and also working for the community harmony through our yoga practice. Through yoga practice, we believe we can achieve wisdom. Wisdom always leads to success and remind us to live in the present moment. So by living this in present and enjoying this presence, I would like to take this moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and everyone in the council member meeting. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Thank you, HSS. Thank you, Mandava Garu. Thank you, Murli Garu, for guiding me and giving this opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very nice expose of yoga practice. And the next council meeting, all of us council members will have a common practice, yoga practice together.
Excellent.
Thank you. Would you like to come up so I can give you the proclamation, and do you have anybody to take a picture? Oh, okay. Okay, we are now going to move on to public comment. Madam Clerk, do I have any public comment?
We have no one who registered to speak at public comment today, but we did receive one email. It was from Janet Dosen, and that was provided to council earlier today.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And now we're gonna move on to a public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG 2025-2029 Consolidated Plan and Program Year 2025 Annual Action Plan as requested by the Department of Community Impact and Enhancement. Okay, I was expressing excitement for the plan. So I'm going to go ahead and call to order this public hearing, and the time is 6:20. And I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Jurgens for some introductory comments.
Thank you, Mayor. You did a very good job. I'm actually going to turn this over directly to Melissa Hahn, our Director of Community Enhancement or Community Impact and Enhancement, and William Bessler, our Grants Manager. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City Manager. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight about our 2025-2029 CDBG Consolidated Plan and our 2025 Annual Action Plan draft. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, the City of Bloomington is an entitlement community, so we do receive funds directly from Housing and Urban Development. Any activities that we fund with our entitlement funding do have to meet a national objective to benefit low to moderate income persons, to prevent or eliminate slumber blight conditions, or to meet urgent community needs. Next slide, please. So as part of the 2025 through 2029 Consolidated Plan process, we had to do very extensive outreach. I have to commend William and his team for the outreach that they were able to complete with this plan. With the 1,408 responses that they received, this was overall 182% increase from what we did for the last consolidated plan. So just want to make sure we give a big shout out to him and his staff for all that they did. Attended 23 community events. Also new this year, which we had not done in the past, was us outside of just the in-person public forum held at the library. They also did a virtual public forum for people that could not attend. So that was something new this year that they implemented. And then also having 7 stakeholder focus groups meetings. In the past, we'd kind of done those through a survey, but this year actually did those in person to really have those one-on-one conversations. Next slide, please. So out of the survey plan results that were received, the goals that were set based on the results are what you see before you: preservation of existing affordable housing stock, elimination of slum blight conditions, support the provision of public service activities, public facility and infrastructure improvements, and then to administer the CDBG programs effectively and proficiently. Some of the top items out of the surveys were street sidewalk improvements, homeless facilities and shelters, and housing rehabilitation, which fall within the goals as outlined for the 2025 through 2029 consolidated plan. Next slide, please. Wanted to highlight here the geographic priority areas that have been outlined with this consolidated plan. So you'll see the preservation area, and this is out, the map is out of our comprehensive plan. But you'll see in the pink is the preservation area. This is also area that we targeted with our ARPA funding as well. And then the regeneration area is that area to the right in orange. Then also the WBRP service area, which is incorporated within that preservation area, and then parts of South Central Bloomington, which are comprised of census tract 1700 and 5900. Next slide, please. So for the program year 2025, this program year will run from May 1 of 2025 through April 30th of 2026. It is the 51st year that we will be implementing or administering the CDBG program. Every year we are required to create an annual action plan. So that's what we will discuss now. Next slide, please. So the city released a request for proposal for public service, public facility and infrastructure, and that was released back in November. Applications were due in January. In total, we received 14 applications. 10 were for public service and administration applications, and 4 were for public facility and infrastructure improvements. Awarded organizations are subrecipients to our CDBG funding. Next slide, please. So for the preservation of existing affordable housing stock, we're allocating $333,000. That includes homeowner housing assistance and then rehabilitation service delivery. For elimination of slum and blight, we're allocating $35,000, and that would be for residential housing demolitions. Next slide, please. To support the provision of public service, 84,000 was allocated. There is a cap on how much we can allocate from HUD. So out of the amount that we can allocate, 3 programs were chosen to be awarded. Those programs were Home Sweet Home Ministries, Unhoused Street Outreach at $34,000, West Bloomington Revitalization Project, Community Operations at $18,000, and KTB Financial Services at $32,000. Next slide, please. For public facility and infrastructure improvements, we are estimating allocating 125,000. For the City of Bloomington Public Works Department, South Central Sidewalk improvements at 95,500. These sidewalk improvements will be around the Wood Hill Towers area for that Bloomington Housing Authority housing project. And then also Mid-Central Community Action Public Facility Improvements at $29,500. Next slide, please. Then for administering CDBG effectively and proficiently, $90,000. Part of that will be for Prairie State Legal's Fair Housing Program at $17,000. Housing Authority of the City of Bloomington, Section 3 training at $9,000. And then the McLean County Regional Planning Commission Housing and Community Planning at $37,000. General Program Administration, $27,000, and that would be a total community investment of $667,000. Next slide, please. So the total is made up of a few different areas. Our estimated annual allocation of 560, as you'll see here, this is just an estimate. So what we've provided you are going to be based on what we are estimating we will have in total. That will be adjusted once we do receive our actual allocation. We're estimating about 51,000 in program income, prior year resources at about 55,000. So that gives the total for the total program year 2025 revenue. Next slide, please. So the next steps, the public comment period will be open through February 23rd. As I mentioned, those potential changes, revenue adjustments will need to be made once we receive our actual allocation amount. And then that will be brought before council for consideration and action. We'll then resubmit to HUD for approval, and then the funding would be released by HUD. We're hoping that in the next couple months, we'll know what that allocation amount is. But once again, that is all dependent on HUD. So we're just waiting for them. Next slide, please. So for public comment and any program contacts, the public can reach out to William or grant specialist Joni Gerard if they have any public comments they would like to submit, or if they have any questions, they can feel free to reach out via email or phone to either of them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Do we, at this point, we'll ask if council has any questions? Okay, Councilman Ward.
Hi there. Thank you for this. It's good to get this conversation going. Can you say anything about what the project with Home Sweet Home Ministries is about? Any more detail than what's offered?
So what they applied for was for their street outreach program to be just out making those connections with those that are currently experiencing homelessness and getting them connected with resources out in the community.
Okay. And if we could go back to slide, I think it was 5, that was the map that had the pink and then green, I think it was. I'm trying to get a sense of where the slum and blight is predominantly based on that map.
So most of what we see for that is going to be in that preservation area, and then also some of in the South Central. And so this was based on HUD data and then also looking at census data as well.
And so when you say the preservation area, that's the pink and the orange, or?
The preservation area is the pink area, the regeneration area is the orange.
Mhm. And then, you mentioned that 35,000 would be dedicated to elimination of slum and blight, and that's primarily about demolishing houses that are derelict. How many houses will that handle? And how many, compared to how many we have on our list?
I would say that will probably be about one or two that we would be able to, but we also utilize our IDA funding for elimination of slum and blight as well. So it won't just be restricted to this CDBG funding.
Do you know off the top of your head how many houses we're talking about that we have identified?
I don't.
Yeah. And then one last thing, you said this is dependent on HUD. So, is that a way of saying that we may or may not get these funds at all, given the current climate?
We've not
Shall we
received any
say.
indication that we would not get our funding. We just don't know if it's going to be a little bit longer of a process this year as maybe it has been in the past. But once again, I mean, it's dependent on when they let us know what our allocation will be.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. First, I just want to, I emailed you guys a little earlier, but thank you again for the thoughtfulness and the hard work into making sure that there was kind of this comprehensive picture of how to get feedback from the community, because I think that's really important. So I'd love to see those numbers of like how much it increased. So thank you very much for that. A couple of questions that I had were kind of follow-up ones. It's my understanding that this year it's a higher percentage that we're allocating to housing rehab. So can you just tell me like what increase that is, or like what the difference is between last annual plan or consolidated plan versus now?
The last consolidated plan was about 38 to 39% allocated for housing rehabilitation. This plan puts it in the mid-40s. We can get you the specific numbers.
Okay, that's helpful enough. And oh, I had another question, but where did it go in my brain? That's good enough then. Thank you.
Well, I'll ask a question and maybe hopefully you'll remember it. Okay, all right. Could you tell us, Melissa, what general administration entails? Do you have more details on that?
The general administration to administer the programs effectively and
Mhm.
proficiently is staff cost, software cost, things like that.
Okay, all right. Goes around 27,000, right? You said?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
I remembered it.
Look at that.
Woo,
I'm amazing.
Teamwork. You had indicated that on the RFP this year that you added that developers can apply for infrastructure money. And I guess maybe talk to me about, or us about, did you envision that being like smaller developers or big developers, or did you, we're just kind of wait and see who was going to apply, but kind of what was your thought
Yeah.
process of who you were trying to bring in?
Sure. So we just wanted to bring awareness. It's something that's been out there that, they could apply for it. It's one of those things where we are a very fortunate community, and because we are a very fortunate community, we don't receive a lot in our annual allocation. William and I talked to a community the other day and they get millions. So we were like jealous of, what they get. And we understand, I mean, it is, based on need. And so we just wanted to bring awareness to developers if they were interested in doing affordable housing development, that they could apply for those public infrastructure improvements. I know that some of our outreach, we did have conversations with developers, and when they saw the amounts, it's so minimal. For a lot of them, us providing even 100,000 isn't really going to do much for millions of dollars needed for, infrastructure with their developments. But we did want to bring light to it just in case there was something out there that would fill a gap, meet a need, that is available to them.
One of the
Thank you.
things we hear a lot is that the cost of construction, one of the big reasons is for the cost of infrastructure. So the thought was that if we could start to put something towards that, it could be helpful. But again, as Melissa said, the numbers are so small as it relates to CDBG. It wasn't, for some folks, it wasn't worth it.
Is there any indication that it would help smaller developers? Like, have there been conversations around that? Like, we heard that presentation last week from the Community Land Trust. Are we thinking like maybe organizations like that, it could be helpful?
Sure, yeah, and that's once again would be open and available for them to apply.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. I guess we're going to go to the public input section. Is there any?
We did not have anyone register to testify, but if anyone would like to that's present, they still could.
Okay. Sounds good. Look, at this time, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and the time is 6:36. And thank you both for your presentation. Really appreciate it. And we are going to move to the consent agenda at this point. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Hendricks. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, I made eye contact with you first, okay. All right, second by Councilmember Dannenberger.
We gave you the trick one since it's your first night. We're just
Right,
teasing.
I
I'm
know.
just teasing. It's okay. Sometimes we have a little bit of trouble. If you just want to tell me how you would like to vote for this item.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that's how we're picking on the new guy.
I promise we tested it.
Awesome. Okay. So that passes, no nays to announce. And now we're going to move on to the regular agenda, and we're going to start with a consideration and action on a resolution approving the fiscal year 2026 John M. Scott Healthcare Trust Category 1 and Category 2 grant awards and programmatic agreements in the amount of $763,000 and $532, actually. And this is requested by the Department of Community Impact and Enhancement. I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Jurgens.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the council is aware, in addition to serving as city council members and as township board members, you also serve as trustees for the John M. Scott Trust. The John M. Scott Trust is a very impactful and has done a lot of good in our community. And tonight you will be hearing the proposed grant awards that the John M. Scott Commission is recommending, that then has to be approved by this body sitting as trustee for the John M. Scott Trust. And with that, I'll turn it over to, again, our grants manager, William Bessler, and Judy Newbrander, who serves as the chairperson of the commission. Thank you.
Mayor, council, city manager. Before I turn the presentation over to Dr. Newbrander, who, as city manager Jurgens said, is the chairperson of the John M. Scott Commission, I wanted to take a moment to say thank you to all the folks that make this incredible investment in our community possible. First, I would like to thank Dr. Newbrander and her leadership and the entire John M. Scott Commission for their tireless efforts to improve the health of McLean County residents. I would also like to thank the community members that assisted the commission review applications in this cycle. And finally, I want to take a moment to thank my staff, especially Joni Gerard, for the support they provided the commission. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Newbrander.
Good evening. Thank you. It's my privilege to serve as the chair for this commission for this year. And I echo everything that William said. I won't repeat it, but it is our commission works tirelessly to and passionately about these grants. So if we can move on to the next slide. The grants are divided into 3 categories, and all trust funds must be recipients must be McLean County residents. Their household income is at or below 185% of federal poverty level. And the funds must go towards direct healthcare services or programs or projects tackling social determinants of health. Next slide. The three categories, just briefly. Category 1, general operating grants. They're usually for 3 years, and they're typically larger grants. Category 2 are related to community health improvement plan goals, annual awards, and they include capital and program funding. And then our category 3 are, again, annual awards, usually split between an emergent and emergency needs. These are smaller grants and they can be off-cycle grants. We can move to the next slide, please. And this is the process, just to go over it. We put out a request for proposals for grants 1 and 2. We released that September of 24. We did community information sessions because we want to make sure everyone is aware and knows about it. The applications are open. You can see September through October. And then we have volunteers, as William said, that review all of the grants, give their input, and then the grants committee met 3 times to review all of them. And then we made our recommendations December 17th, which is what we'll talk about next. If you can go to the next slide. So for category 1, this is the annual funding requests through 2028. I said these are 3-year, requested over 600,000, and we had 6 applications for that. Category 2, the capital applications requesting over $207,000. And the program funding, we had 17 requests for $710,000. We obviously didn't have enough money to cover all those requests. So on the next slide, excuse me, these are our recommendations broken down. For category 1, general operating grants, those are the larger ones, $250,000. Category 2, capital grant is $120,000. Category 2, that's for the capital, and then category 2 programming grants, $393,000 for a total of $760,532 is our recommendations. Just so you know, if we can move to the next slide, your community investment grant fund activities that address the 3 priorities of our current CHIP, which is Community Health Improvement Plan, access to care, healthy eating, active living, and behavioral health, including mental health and substance abuse. I'm just quick commentary. It's amazing what our community is doing for the health and wellness of our community and all the different organizations that come together and submit grants, and it's a privilege to be a part of it. Organizations funded also focus on social determinants of health to address the root cause of health disparities, and the funding of this Judge John M. Scott Spirit serves under the resourced community members to help create more equitable community. And we really, every time we meet almost, we talk about, is this really what John M. Scott wanted this to be about? And we just make sure we stay on track. The trustee approval, next step, sorry. Can we go to the next slide? I'm moving on. So our next steps, with trustee approval, staff will execute grant agreements with awarded organizations. All applicants receive feedback on their applications, so we want them to approve. If they weren't awarded a grant, we want to help them for the next year. And then funding will be released June of 2025. So next slide is just questions.
Okay. Any questions? Council members? Okay. All
I'd
right.
move approval.
Okay. Moved by Councilmember Ward,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hendricks. Okay, item passes. No nays announced. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good job. Okay, the next item is item B on the regular agenda, and which is a continued consideration and action on an ordinance amending the Bloomington City Code, updating Chapter 35, Section 75 pertaining to the composition of the Public Safety and Community Relations Board as requested by the Public Safety and Community Relations Commission. And we do have Chairperson McFarland and Mr. Hurt.
Good evening, Mayor and
Did you?
City Council. Just a quick review of what brought us here tonight. During the December meeting, the Public Safety and Community Relations Review Board requested an ordinance change, and really it's just one word in that particular paragraph that states that 2 of the 9 seats of the current board may be used for either youth or adult members. I have Chairperson McFarland with me here tonight, and she will follow up with any additional questions. I was asked by Councilmember Ward to take a consideration back to our January meeting. Her consideration for us was that we increase the board size to 11 members and that 2 of the seats be retained for youth members. The board, during the January meeting, decided they did not want to increase the board size due to various reasons, which I will let Chairperson McFarland explain. So I'll just turn it over to her now.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here tonight. This is what we wanted to do as far as amending this. We are a highly paid volunteer group. And we try and get everyone to the meetings that we can. And it's hard to get a quorum sometimes. Having said that, our 2 youth members that we did have on our board a couple years ago stayed with us for about a year, and they didn't come to a lot of meetings, and we haven't been able to get any other youth members to join our board. We've reached out to school officials, we've reached out to resource officers at the schools, we've gone to lots of things like junior achievement to try and get youth members on the board. A lot of times they have a lot going on with their lives. They want, they have sports, they have music, and they're not interested in coming to the board. We want them there. We feel like it's important to have youth on our board. But the current composition of the board indicates that it must be 2 youth members. And we would like to change that wording to may, which means it'll give us some flexibility that if youth members do want to join the board, they can. If not, those could go to adult members. Questions?
Okay, Councilmember Ward.
When we talked, thank you for this. When you and I talked, Chair McFarland, you mentioned that the biggest issue with raising the number of seats from 9 to 11 was that you were concerned about a quorum and that many of the adults that were participating weren't showing up on a regular basis. How would eliminating the requirement that the 2 spots be for youth address the issue of the quorum?
So we continually have our 7 people that are there. Many times they can't all make it there. Increasing the board size it would make it harder. We've only had applications from adult members for the past, couple of years. So not receiving those continues to be problematic.
So that is a problem, the application process. I know for a fact that you have actually received at least one application by a young adult who would fit into this category, and it slipped through the cracks because I reached out to somebody in early December who did apply, and through no fault of the PSCRBs, okay, hear me, that that application has been overlooked until today. And it's my understanding that now that application is being considered. I also know that there have been other adult applicants who have been not pursued. And to me, that is a question of the application process. It's not a question of needing to change the makeup of the committee or the board. And we need to tighten up as a city. We need to tighten up that application process because for years now, we have had many, many boards and commissions that have gone lacking membership. And that's a problem, not just with the PSCRB. It's been a problem across the city, and that process needs to be tightened up. And there are applications out there from people who are willing to serve. And for that reason, I oppose this decision. I think that or this proposal rather, I think that we as a city, if we are truly committed to the spirit of the PSCRB, we have to hear from our youth. We have to give some sense that we hold that as a value, that we value their voices. And we're not going to shut them out just because we have a flawed application process. And I strongly oppose any efforts to shut out their voices by simply saying shall, or rather may, instead of shall. I don't think it's going to accomplish what you're hoping it will. And there are people out there who are willing to serve if we reach out to them and if we process their applications in a timely way. And so for that reason, I move to reject this motion or reject this change.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Question. Councilperson Ward, can I get a clarification?
Certainly.
You said that there was definitely one application in the hopper, and this has been in the 2.5 years since we had our last youth on the board.
I reached out to somebody, they said yes. It took me about a week to get somebody. That application sat there. I didn't know that there was for 2.5 years that we haven't had any applications. I would have reached out to them sooner.
As Chairperson McFarland said, we had already gone to resource officers. We've gone to the youth group at the NAACP. So our outreach efforts have been substantial. So it's great you got somebody there after the first month, but we've been doing this for 2.5 years with no luck. And I don't see that changing. As we've already stated, I'm not sure it's just all in the application process in terms of not being able to get people on the commissions. There just is not a lot of interest among our youth for this particular board.
I would say too, that even some of our resource officers that have given us names of students, the parents didn't want these students to participate on a board such as this. And it's very difficult to find these folks to come on there. I would say that we are not shutting the door on hearing from youth. What we're saying is that we're holding those positions where they may be applicable to having youth voting members, but not to limit it so that we only have 7 members on the board. It's very difficult to move forward with our business on the board without having enough people there for a quorum.
But if you have 7 people on the board, it's a quorum of the sitting members.
I understand.
And if the adults aren't showing up to be that, you're still not going to have a quorum.
And increasing the board size will only going to make that more difficult.
I hear you. I'm not proposing anymore to increase the board size.
Okay.
That was simply to do away with the conditionality of youth participation.
Okay, do you have a comment?
So from looking at past attendance records, it looked like the attendance rate for youth members is less than on average the adult members. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Correct.
So that on average, if it was an either or, we could see the ability to achieve a quorum increase.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do we have time? Do we have enough time? I would just
Okay.
quickly add, I wholeheartedly agree with Alderperson Ward. I'm a high school social studies teacher. I see that kids are active and engaged and want to be a part of things. I wanted to be a part of that when I was a kid too, and there were not many opportunities. And I know not every 8th grade kid wants to be involved in local service or politics or those sorts of things, but I think this is one of the ways that we provide that opportunity. And again, no shame or anything to the PSCRB. And if it's on us as council people to be out there advocating and fighting to find these people, then I will take on that task and try to do that. That, in my opinion, has been something that has been not necessarily always a council person's role. I think we're out there talking about them, but I think when it comes to appointment, and nothing on Maboka either, but when it comes to appointment, often the mayor is receiving those. And so we don't always know sometimes when those names are coming in. I reached out to just the context that I have at Heartland, Wesleyan, ISU, Unit 5, 87, and all of the social studies teachers that I talk to, just because that's the role that I'm in and it feels like it connects here, had never known that a youth person could serve, and were blown away. And it was a very short time period though, when I reached out in December, and now here we are in February. That's a change of semesters for a lot of these young people. So all of the teachers reached back and was like, oh my gosh, I would love to know about this. How can we get more involved? What can we get for information? And so I think there is such an opportunity there, and I would hate to remove it. And I know, sure, the youth aren't showing up as much as the adults, but how many youth have we had serve in this role?
2.
Okay, so we've had 2 youth, and so those 2 youth speak for all of the youth of whether or not they can show up to a meeting. There are lots of adults who also don't show up to meetings. So I think we have such an opportunity here to bring in these voices. And again, if it's on us to try and fight and advocate for that, I will take full responsibility and work to do that.
I'm very surprised to hear that the social studies teachers and the counselors you talk to don't have any idea that this opportunity exists. We have flooded those very resources for the last, 3 years since we passed this ordinance with all of that information. So none of it's new unless these are all new employees.
The one I'm married to has been there for decades, and he wasn't aware of it, but made a recommendation.
Hmm.
Okay, we ready?
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion to deny, right?
Yes, that is correct. So motion to deny the ordinance, and it is motioned by Councilmember Ward and seconded by Councilmember Hendricks.
So to clarify, a no vote allows this to not be
Remain
denied.
as is.
Yeah, we would, if this fails, then we would come back and ask for another motion.
Okay, thank you.
So can we get some
If you-
clarification?
Yeah, I was
again?
gonna say, I heard her say she's confused. Okay, so a yes would deny the ordinance.
It would
Okay.
keep the thing the way
It would keep it as is.
Keep it at
correct.
shall
Yeah. it
and
would-
no
it-
may.
Correct, yep. And then if, depending on this, we may come back for another motion if necessary. So yes, keeps the ordinance as it is in the code today.
So
It's 5-4. I was, just to clarify there, Mayor, so you have 4 no's. So it passes,
It-
meaning
right.
it stays as the
As
code
is.
is existing
Okay,
today.
sounds good.
And I can read those nays for you.
Sure.
Thank you for the record. Michael Mosley, Sheila Montney, Nick Becker, Kent Lee.
All right. Sounds good. Moving on to the next item, item C. Consideration and action on a resolution waiving the formal bidding requirements and authorizing the city manager to approve an agreement to purchase a gas chromatograph machine from Midwest Lab Solutions in the amount of $163,991 dollars and 10 cents, as requested by the Water Department.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the council knows and the community is aware, we've had some taste and water issues associated with the switching of lakes. This is something that's happened a few times with us. Appreciate Ed Andrews, our water director, who was working to get a new system, some things in place to address this. It was in the budget, going to be in the budget for the next fiscal year. Actually asked him and staff to move that up. So we are working now to get this type of filtration system in place. This is a component of that to some degree. I'm not gonna muddy the water here, but we'll turn this over to Ed.
We've got
and-
more than enough of that.
Yeah,
already.
we have more than enough of that, but again, this is something we want to address as quickly as possible. One of the things I want the water director to address is, obviously, the water is safe to drink, but there is a strong odor and taste, and that's not acceptable, and that's something that we're working to address. So with that, I'll turn that over to our water director, Ed Andrews.
Thank you, City Manager. Council, go ahead and roll into the first slide. As we've already stated, safe water, bad taste. And so what's included on this slide is our annual consumer confidence report. We publish that every May. We meet all the federal and state parameters for safe water. What we are experiencing are secondary standards for taste and odor, and that's geosmin and MIB. I'll go into more details on that. We have fielded many calls and will continue to field calls and answer questions for concerns where there might be, is there something wrong specific to my residence? We do water sampling free of charge at the house. That's been ongoing. Well, it's always been ongoing, but even more so with our lead replacement program and that inventory. Last year, we addressed that in the spring, and we'll continue to do that on an annual basis. Next slide. So why'd we effectuate that switch? It was not to get everyone excited and have taste and odor problems and present to you tonight. Lake Bloomington, which was our primary lake that we were drawing upon, which had the lower of those two trace element compounds, we had to effectuate a switch on January 31st based on lake levels. And you can see by the photos from the lake, WEK was out for an interview and did some photos. I borrowed theirs from that article, but we're down almost 8 feet on that lake. So continued pumping, we're just literally going to run out of volume in Lake Bloomington. Lake Evergreen, on the other hand, which we had not drawn from because of its taste and odor issues, which we're all aware of, that was only down 2.7 feet. So volumetrics are the main concern or that main rationale for the switch. Next slide. So typically, taste and odor, geosmin and MIB under 10 milligrams per liter don't usually result in complaints. The data we had when we made that switch, and again, we were having to make that switch anyway because of volume, but on taste and odor, Lake Evergreen was at a 4. MIB is kind of the more pronounced of those two markers. And Evergreen I said Evergreen was at a 4. Bloomington, we were drawn off of, was at a 2.9. So that test data that I'm quoting from was sampled on January 28th. We made that switch on the 31st. This following week, when I messaged those levels, we had drawn a sample last week on Tuesday. It takes almost a full week to get those sample results back. So we're working off of almost week-old data, both in some of our decisions on which lake to draw from, provided we had the volume to play the switch game, which we don't. But that is the main reason to advance the gas cartographer this evening, is because we are waiting so long. That test literally can be run in 20 minutes. So the round of 3 tests from each of those sample points, we could get that information back in a couple of hours instead of almost a week. So moving ahead, we would very much like to obtain that equipment sooner rather than later. Next slide. Just historically, wanted to put in perspective, this isn't the first time we've had this problem. It has repeatedly shown up. And as you can see, past high levels. We've been sampling weekly, and this is my first round of really the taste and odor issues to this kind of degree. We were sort of spared that in fall of 23. Fall of 24, I presented to council. I think that was September 3rd. Shown on the right-hand side, we've sampled every week since. This most recent round of sample results, which we received this morning, so I got to update my graph. We actually set a record in Lake Bloomington on MIB at 200 nanograms per liter. Evergreen's at 250. So when we were initially responding to calls and complaints last week, we were working off of numbers that we shouldn't have had those kind of complaints. 200 and 250, we fully expect to have those complaints. Next slide. So again, as mentioned, the presentation tonight for item 10C in your action is to bring that testing equipment in-house. It's not without a cost, but we've reached out to a couple of different agencies, suppliers. One said, you won't even see the equipment in over a year. We're not even going to quote it. So what we're bringing forward is the Allegiant model, which our lab supervisor is comfortable with that supplier. Next slide. So what would we normally use to help knock back taste and odor issues? There's 2 systems, and I'll discuss both of those. Originally, we did have a PAC system, a powder activated charcoal. That's kind of the secret ingredient in a Brita filter, is a charcoal filter up inside of there. So large industrial scale Brita filtering. That equipment was added. It wasn't original to the plant. It was added in the 80s. It was an old model then. It did age out. There was an engineering study that helped support its retirement, although we could have looked to replace it, and we didn't. That study did underscore the granular activated carbon that we had done as an upgrade to the filter beds. And next slide. So our filter beds were rehabbed in 1994, and GAC was added to the top layer of those beds, and that's what we operate today. GAC gives us a good baseline operation, but doesn't help us shave off those peaks, the spikes that we're seeing right now. Next slide. So what we had queued up in the proposed budget for next year, when we started to get into the taste and odors issues in September, I went to my staff and said, we got to fix this. We should not be going through this same repeated cycle repeatedly. And so a reintroduction of the PAC system, but upgrading it, what I failed to mention on the old one is literally was a manual operation of dumping 50-pound bags down a chute. The new system would be semi-delivered. It'd be pumped up into a tower with the feed and more flow paced, and we would have better testing data to make those adjustments on a more timely basis. So the discussion we had was we need a way to expedite this from a traditional design, bid, build to more of a direct procurement with a vendor. We do have in-house engineering that we were looking at putting this forward in the new budget as a performance spec bid. And then with the allowance from city manager and legal to make more of an advanced procurement, we've started to reach out directly to the handful of vendors that are out there that make this type of equipment. And so I only had one so far give me a ballpark. The rest of them are working with their manufacturer folks to give us a hard quote on it. But just as a starting point, we are in the ballpark for what we have in the budget at $1 million. The equipment itself, 600 to 700 shipped to our doorstep. We'll still have construction. We get to pour our own silo pad, wire it up and pipe it into the system. But we would still look to be able to do that for what's allocated in the proposed budget coming up. The big thing is the lead time on equipment. If we gave them a PO today, it would be first quarter of next year from that one. So my intent is to come back at next council session and make a similar proposal for that procurement to get that silo rolling. Next slide. And then some future enhancements. We actually own the equipment that's pictured here. So during the spring months when there's not ice on the lake, the monitoring buoys are out. We do have automatic sampling at the two inputs, but what we don't have is that sampling equipment doesn't have a way to report back geosmin and MIB levels. We're working with Hydrosphere, and this was before this round of taste and odor complaints. Just we're backloading a calibration between the two, so there'll be a web portal that we could draw upon that data more readily. So it's not a situation where we're just waiting to react. We've tried to be proactive on this as best as possible, but working in that traditional budget delivery. And then this most recent spike, wanted to move ahead in a more expedient manner. And that's my last slide, so I can field questions if any.
Okay. Councilmember Kearns?
Yeah, I just had a quick question to make sure I understand. Both lakes have contributed to the taste and odor problems?
That is correct. And normally Evergreen tracks a little higher
Okay,
than Bloomington, which is why we were relying so heavily on Bloomington up until the switch.
okay, all right.
We're trying to weather it out and hope that the lake would recharge before we had to make the switch. We are in a rain deficit right now. So we're actually about 1.5 inches behind where we should have been for January. 2.4 inches, I think we got 0.66 in that area.
Okay, all right. That was helpful because my water definitely started tasting funny well before January 31st. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I understood.
Yeah, and we've tracked that weekly, and with the in-house equipment could even be that much more aggressive with it.
Councilmember Monty?
Thank you so much for educating us on this. And so this issue of this deficit of rain that we've experienced is certainly not unique to just the city of Bloomington. As you look around the surrounding counties and the surrounding areas, what have you observed with their experience? And for any that are having a better experience in terms of working through this without their residents seeing this decline in water taste, what do they have that we don't?
Most of our local surrounding communities are well-sourced and not surface water. So the two most reflective communities to our situation are Springfield, Lake Springfield as their source, and Decatur. I won't call Decatur because of our previous city manager. But we did actually have our water operator and lake manager spend a day down at Lake Springfield and looked at their pack system. So they baseline feed pack year round. So there's a baseline that they shave off with that, as well as crank it up and increase the dosage when they get into those higher peaks. And that's exactly what we're looking to reinstall, is the ability to have the PAC upstream of those filter beds that are just well, it's the same acronym all the time, but the granulated charcoal, which is a heavier media that almost looks like gravel on the top of the filter beds.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Crumpler?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you so much for this presentation. Like you, I've received lots of emails and, and questions about, the taste and the odor of the water. You've said that this has happened previously, right? And so just so I could respond to my constituents, in your sort of estimation, how long should we expect this odor or taste to last before it's rectified by either more rain or something else that the water treatment plant is doing?
More rain definitely will not hurt the
Right.
situation. It will help. I got pinned down on the Scott Miller show last fall during that first round of this. And, typically we would come out of it, definitely by like December, I should say definitely. But December, January, when the winter months set in, and we did see those levels drop down. Why we're in a rebound, all I can do is monitor it and sort of operate with one hand tied behind my back until we're able to get a pack silo online. We are cautioning that, if you wanted to go the full 9 yards and totally knock those compounds out, it wouldn't be $1 million project. It would be more of a tens of $1 million project to add UV or other advanced disinfection. So, we're trying to be responsible, but also responsive and implement what we had and what in the past 20, 30 years ago was able to help shave those peaks off. So that's our intention. There's some other modifications that we might do once we get that online, but as far as a more immediate cost-effective solution, this is, what we recommend.
Thank you.
Okay. Ed, can you take us back to when you switched to Lake Evergreen? What was the date?
I remember it well. Friday, January 31st.
31st,
Because before we made the switch, we messaged, to administration that Lake Bloomington is very down and we need to make that switch. And while we knew the levels were different, we'll just round up. Bloomington was hanging around a 4 and Evergreen was a 6. That was the data we had. Again, we still had to make the switch with being almost 8 feet down. You can, see the photographic evidence of it.
Yeah.
So we might have started to do a blend a little earlier, kind of got people desensitized to, I'm drinking a 4 nanogram per liter source in a 6. When you're used to that level, even though 10 normally is the threshold of not having complaints or above it having complaints, operational wise, we'll certainly look at that in the future as well.
Okay. Because so prior to January 30th, you could really smell it and taste it. But since then, I even kind of tested it out yesterday, and I know everybody is a little bit different. I have people in my household who have a stronger sense of smell, but I smell less of it. It's not as perceptible as it was before. Can you explain a little bit of what could be going on there besides the different, you know,
You, I, uh, I'm glad that you are becoming desensitized to it. But that is something that I wouldn't say we should enact a taste panel, but one recommendation is to have a volunteer group that meets and actually tests or tastes those different blends in concentrations, where instead of just relying on a nanogram per liter rule of thumb, we can get that a little more dialed into a taste panel. Believe it or not, there is such a thing, but that really would be more appropriate as we get the PAC system online and start setting some of those benchmark thresholds with that equipment in place.
okay. All right, well, let's go for it. Taste panel. Kent?
Yeah, can you explain to me how this testing equipment would be used in conjunction with the PAC? So the PAC is not online yet, right?
No, the PAC is a series of phone calls that we're making right now with vendors that it will be probably more on the order of 12 to 18 months before that equipment's online, with a 12-month lead time on an order. But the equipment, and I apologize, I kind of glossed over it in that one slide. No one locally is able to run that test. We send those samples to South Bend, Indiana, to Eurofins laboratory. And that's even with some expedited turnaround time when we send that in. So it's not a crushing amount for what those tests cost. The 3 sets collectively cost just a hair under $800. So it's going to take a while to pay $164,000 back at $800 a test. Although we've been doing it weekly since September, the ability to have that more immediate result instead of where we're acting on last week's data to make adjustments for that system, or even our ability to message out to the general public, is greatly enhanced by having a machine in our lab that we can get a test. A single test can be run in 20 to 30 minutes. So we'll be able to make adjustments essentially that same day on the water coming into the plant immediately.
Okay, so I guess I'm just thinking, like, how often will this new equipment be used? I mean, is it one of those things where you use it a couple of times and then it just kind of sits in the corner, and then, because if we're getting a PAC system, and you mentioned Springfield, regularly uses that year round.
Yeah.
Will this testing equipment even be needed after that?
Well, we're pulling tests weekly right now, so I don't see the PAC system not needing that input and guidance from where our water's tracking on a day-to-day, if it's in a climbing situation or doing it weekly is not the solution. So I promise we'll use the equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Was there a motion? Oh, you have a
I
question?
Question, and I'm gonna play the new card here.
Uh-oh.
So with the equipment that you're proposing on acquiring, would there be, since you'll be able to to complete the test yourself, will there be a cost savings from sending it to South Bend? We would just eliminate that altogether, and just rely on our own testing?
We will still send a QA sample, like 1 in 10, 1 in 20, to make sure that our machine is calibrating and giving us correct data back. That's been one of the, I guess, hesitancies prior. I point blank ask, well, why don't we have this equipment? A, it's expensive, and B, we'd have to go through a lot of certification. Well, we're not going to perform these tests for anyone but ourselves. So the requirement for us to fully certify our lab to perform those tests externally is not a requirement. So we would still draw upon Eurofins for that periodic maybe quarterly sample check against our machine. Lab service comes in annually, they calibrate it. So I won't say it's a one-to-one payment, but
Yeah.
it's really more on the expediency of getting the testing back.
And then the last question that I have would be, when you said the January 31st date, when you knew that you've hit the switch, the data that you used at that time, was it dated because of the last time you had actually sent a sample out?
No,
Okay.
it really was a volumetric concern. We had been watching the volumes in the lake as well, and it just literally got to my discussion with our operator. You're gonna run the lake dry. Well, yeah, but you know, if we make the switch, we're gonna get complaints. I think it's time just to absorb the complaints. I'll take the hit. And, you know, I've messaged that before. I would much rather have a discussion about taste and odor in February than, we're on a water restriction in June. So, which I hope to never have that conversation.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to motion that we approve the request to waive the formal bidding process as presented.
Second.
Second, okay. Everybody ready to vote?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion passes. No nays to announce. Thank you, Ed. And now we're gonna move on to city manager's discussion.
Thank you. And as they're pulling that up, really, I just want to say thank you again to our water director, Ed Andrews. Really appreciate him being on this and moving this forward along with the rest of his team. I know this has been a difficult time for him and the department, but again, really appreciate this. And I know when your water doesn't taste great, these are hollow words, but truly we are on it and we're going to get this new system in place. And we do think it will improve it in the future. So hopefully this is a limited occurrence that we're going through. And again, so just really appreciate Ed and going out there and doing the media tours and everything else. And appreciate the presentation tonight, trying to explain this more to the council and the community. Phil, if you could go to the next slide. Just have two quick things tonight. And I'll try not to cough through them. Well, I think the only person more annoyed with my cough is my wife at this point. It is getting a little better. So the last 2 weekends at the arena, we had the IHSA dance and then last weekend, the IHSA cheer. We had in these two events over 22,000 visitors to the community. And the Convention and Visitors Bureau is projecting about a little less than about a $2 million impact on our economy. So really want to thank the staff at the Arts and Entertainment Department, Anthony Nelson and his crew. They do a great job. And I know that the IHSA participants, when they come, they always enjoy it and they find our arena in good shape and they're able to put on good events. So just want to show my appreciation for all of them. The second slide is really more of a preview. Phil, if you can go to the next slide. We are creating a couple of new dashboards that we're going to be rolling out. One is under the city clerk's department, which is going to be a dashboard of everybody that's got a license or a liquor license or miscellaneous licenses within the city that you'll be able to go and find those locations and check the status of the license. And that's exciting. But I'm even more excited about the second dashboard that we're getting ready to roll out. No offense to our great clerk, Leslie Yoakum, but under the direction of Sue McLaughlin, our deputy city manager, and Jim Karch, our new interim director of engineering, going to be creating a dashboard on infrastructure projects. And it's going to be able, you can kind of see the map out there. We've literally got infrastructure projects going on all throughout the community. This dashboard will show the council and the community where these projects are, what the budgets are, when they're going to be completed. And we're talking about everything from street work, sewer work, sidewalks resurfacing. we'll be able to see and track how much money we are spending and as well as tracking the projects. So really excited about this dashboard. At the last meeting in February, going to ask again our Director of Engineering, Jim Karch, to kind of showcase this for a few minutes and show the council and the community what all they're going to be able to see and what all we're currently doing out there in the community. So looking forward to rolling both of these out, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate these dashboards because it's going to be a lot easier for people to be able to tell, what kind of information is out there. One of the things that's always hard is for people to be able to navigate websites. So we have to be able to make it easy for them to find the information, especially since we have so much of it out there. On another note, wanted to mention that last week I was at a downtown streetscape meeting where CMT shared design. The construction design, and that's exciting that we are getting closer and closer to phase one of the project. So definitely a very, very, very nice development that I'm looking forward to. And I think I'm going to leave it there and ask if any other, and again, Michael, congratulations and thank you for your willingness to serve and really looking forward to what you can bring to the council. Councilmember Crumpler.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a quick announcement. Most of you know that I represent the city on the Bloomington Normal Convention Board. And I mentioned back in the fall that we had a national search. And I'm pleased to announce that as February 1st, Melissa Chrisman has come on board as the CEO of that board. She is a Bloomington native, spent some time in Dallas, Fort Worth, and has come back to Bloomington to, I think, lead the board to places that it has not gone before. And we're very excited about her leadership. I just wanted to make the council and the community aware of that. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Mayor, and the City Council for your appointment of me. And I'm going to try my best to learn from you guys and serve this ward well and contribute like you all to our city. And I also want to thank my wife for bringing us up and nudging me towards this opportunity, and all my friends and family that came out tonight too. So thank you.
Awesome. Any others? No? Okay. All right. So at this point, I'll need a motion to enter into executive session per section 2C 11 and 12 of 5 ILCS 120 to discuss pending litigation and claim settlement.
I'll move.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Hendricks.
Second.
Okay, second, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Councilmember Kearns,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley,
Yes.
Councilmember Motley.
Yes.
Motney, sorry. Councilmember Dannenberger,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Hendrick.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward. Aye. Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Yes.
Okay, council is entering executive session per section 2C 11 and 12 of 5 ILCS 120 to discuss pending litigation and claim settlement. The room must be cleared. Following executive session, council will resume the open session meeting and no additional action will be taken except to adjourn. Uh, Can I have a motion to return to open session and adjourn the meeting?
I'll move that we return to open session and adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay, same duo, Hendricks and Ward.
All right.
Okay, all
This one
those
I'll
in
do-
favor?
This
signify
one
by
I'll
s-
do the roll call.
Oh, roll
Yeah,
call, okay.
You're okay. Councilmember Kearns,
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley,
Yes.
Councilmember Motney,
Yes.
Councilmember Dannenberger,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Hendricks.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.